So let me just introduce myself and give a little context for why we put together this discussion. So myself, I'm Savita Kini. I've been in the industry about 17 years across engineering, product management, product marketing. More recently, just focusing more on products and vertical go-to-market strategies and scaling the business. Over the last 10 years of my career, or even more actually, we have often seen products which are very successful and products which fail. And often it's not the technology which causes the failure. Of course, there's a few corner cases like that, but it's, engineering is always fixable. The the scaling or the success often is dependent upon two major factors, which is how the go-to-market is established, how we position the product, how we scale the business. And that often rests on the shoulders of two critical people, which is your product management leader and also your go-to-market product marketing leader. And that's a partnership. Often, I mean, there are very few people who can do both. In general, in the industry, we often see this as a key partnership, which makes or breaks a product. And so I have with me here an esteemed set of panelists across different segments, from cloud, data center, security, as well as from the enterprise SaaS side. And they are a mix of skill sets from product marketing leaders, veterans in the industry, and also people who are sort of mid-career. So what I thought is we'll kind of go through some of the key issues or considerations that product management and product marketing sort of work together to build that partnership and collaboration, and how they can successfully take things to market and scale the business. So I have here Lakshmi Sharma. She's head of Google Cloud Product Management in the networking business. Parag, he's also a veteran in product management and strategy, go-to-market. Steve Feyer. He's an up-and-coming leader in the product marketing side. He's working at Apttus. It's a quote-to-cash, very different from these two folks. So he kind of brings some of the enterprise SaaS perspective. And then I have Adam Stein. He's a veteran here in the Valley, and he has been a VP of product marketing, VP of marketing at many tech startups, and has a very great illustrious career. So he probably can give us a lot of different perspectives across multiple segments. So with that, maybe I can just kind of have you guys give a quick 30 seconds introduction about your career journey, how you landed where you are, and kind of go through that.
Lakshmi Sharma, currently head of networking product management at Google Cloud. Where I started as engineer, and I did my MBA. I'm an alumni for Levi School of Management. When this building opened up, I showed up on there. I was one of the faces on the pamphlets. So I have some history here. Did I change my career after that? No, I think it just there were management people and around me. I believe in mentorship. I believe in just looking up to some people for following, and then just watch their careers. Multiple of them. Product management, staying ahead in the, understanding customer problems, problem solving, and how do you convert an idea into something that people can buy. So which is a mix of kind of strategy and then product management, marketing. Have done it all. Done 2 startups. Prior to Google's role, I was acting CEO of a startup which got acquired. Was head of IT for Target. Lived in Minneapolis, lived in Boston in the worst winters. Tried it all. So, the family has always been here. So I kind of, I miss stretching out my boundaries, and whether it is personally, if I, or whether it is work-wise, really enjoying the scale of the work at this point. So, yeah, so that's where I'm enjoying customers, enjoying people, and applying technology to kind of take it out to masses.
Okay. Parag Bajaria, sharing a similar story. Started my career in engineering. Over time, went through bigger companies, smaller companies, and had an entrepreneurship bug. So decided to start focusing on the business side of the equation, and that led me to product management. Spent around 10, 12 years in product management. Spend half of that time with a big company, and other half of the time with a couple of startups. One was a good exit. One is we'll see. That's it.
All right, I'm Steve Feyer. I am currently Director of Product Marketing at Apttus. Started my career as an investigating consultant. Went out of that to start an enterprise software business with some colleagues from that consulting firm that sold in 2015. And I ran into Apttus at Dreamforce, and less than 3 weeks later was working there in the product marketing team. Done product management in the past, but was never trained as a product manager, product marketer specifically. I ended up in this because it's what I do, and that was the right thing to do for myself rather than get trained to the job, so to speak.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Adam Stein. I came to Valley in 1993 from Boston and opened up a marketing agency out here. I was recruited by a couple of networking firms that I knew very little about but learned. One of them was a very small one called Cisco Systems at the time. About 1,000 people when I joined. It was crazy. And I got to partner with a bunch of product management people. And that partnership of marketing and product management, starting then, really, I didn't realize this until later on, but it made a very big impression on the subsequent jobs. I went to 4 different startups over the course of 15 years after Cisco, and then one large company, SAP, and I learned so much from working with the partnership of product management and product marketing, and I think that has been very instrumental in those companies being successful and my own success as a result, and my own business now. I do product marketing as a service on my own business right now.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you all. So let me just start off with the first sort of burning question. How do you come up with a new product? Or if you have an existing product line, how do you define a new feature set? What considerations are key to your decision making around how to build it, how to take it to market, how to get resources? If you can kind of share your perspective, either as driving it from a product management perspective or as a collaborator from product marketing side. So maybe Lakshmi, if you want to start.
So I'll take one example of niche, like when there is no market segment existing, and that's something called SD-WAN for networking folks if you're here. When Gartner doesn't know it, people don't know it, but you just kind of hear from different customers, you just believe that, that's the right thing to do because you're hearing from the grapevine. So how do you go about it? When there is no name for it, then it's just, I kind of feel it maybe too overkill to use the word data. So as a product managers and marketers, so gut is what you start with, but then you collect data. And then do you kind of go and check like market segments and all? When there's no market segment, which you don't know whether it exists, right? But in order to collect data, you still need to kind of go and see that what is the demand, right? What are the problems that you are trying to solve? I think creating a problem-solving definition, which is, I learned from one of the people, I was mentored that putting it in like 48 to 60 words, like put all the words that come to your mind, like through 1 year or work, and then keep putting those words together. They became one-page word. Then eventually bring them back to a 48-word or 60-word statement, which is about solving a problem. So defining a problem, solving a problem, and then putting how would you solve a problem with some data around it. It may sound very theoretical, but it has worked for me in creating new market segments, working with Gartner to create that category as like a startup or as a big company. It's kind of difficult both. And then when you're doing the work, it's just like, like you said, it just does not happen without partnerships. Partnerships in the industry, going to ITF, going to standards, going to like governments, traveling all around. So buy-in from the industry when you're creating a new product and a new segment, and buy-in from your own company, right? When you're doing that, you need all the support. So partnership is not just external partnership. Partnership to me is like stakeholders who are going to be part of the journey. financial modeling you're talking about. Like it's a very simple thing, but look at the financial impact, the data impact, how it would influence people all around the world if the problem is like big that you're trying to solve. But it just take all the stakeholders in. Do think about financials, because that's how you're going to kind of win, and the influence of that, in that product or the model that you're trying to drive. So that's how I kind of look at. I just make it very simple. Just keep defining your problem statement. As you keep adding those elements to the problem statement, keep thinking like, who are your stakeholders? Is finance a stakeholder? Is legal a stakeholder? Is kind of international boundaries and data policies your stakeholder? So keep bringing those people along, and there have been a lot of failures in that approach, but at least failure doesn't mean that you failed in your approach. Failure to me is that we agreed together that it is not going to work. That's fine. We spent like 1 year with maybe big companies, couple of $100 million to, in some cases few millions, but you all kind of learn together, you all kind of agree together to do something. So that's kind of my approach.
Thank you. Parag, do you have any perspective on, say, addressable market or verticals or personas that you might consider?
Yeah, so a lot of approaches of getting a new product depends on what stage and what company you are working at, right? So let's take a early stage startup. Let's assume that they're at a seed stage or pre-seed stage, right? They're launching a new product is with a thesis. You have a thesis about the marketplace, and your primary job there is that I have created a thesis of problem, I have a solution, and do customers resonate with my solution or not, right? So it's about getting first 10, 15, 20 customers and exclusively focusing on them, forgetting about all the big things that could happen later, and seeing that there's a problem solution fit. The next stage of that, again in startup world, it's a Series A, Series B company, is you say, okay, now that I have a problem solution thing, I need to figure out where do I go from here. So you start identifying what segments you want to go after, right? Typically in a security company, right? Well, I'm going to go after financials, I'm going to go after healthcare, and so on, because those segments are subjected to regulations, and that's where my solution kind of fits in. So that's the evolution of that. Okay, I'm going to go after this. Of course, the reality is that there are so many of those companies, so you need to narrow down the focus again. But here is where you try to figure out what is the way you can leverage your go-to-market approach and work with your marketing counterparts to figure out how do you leverage whatever you do in a scalable way, because you cannot touch all Fortune 5,000 companies in reach there. And that's where a lot of experience comes back from product marketing around how do you go and tackle this problem. And then after you've gone through what I would say, a product, you have iterated your solution, and you have a product market fit, then it's about go-to-market fit, which is about bringing tremendous scale, and that's where you bring in sales organizations and you build up a sales organization. And again, a lot of things I'm saying, you'll find it in plenty of blogs, books, and so on. I've lived some of this life through multiple startups and bigger companies, but that's the way I would think about it.
So maybe Adam and Steve, do you have your perspectives, like how involved is product marketing in the product lifecycle definition, really bringing that perspective?
All right. Yeah, so I have a different perspective, I think, from Parag, because I am working with a industry-leading product that is mature, has product market fit, has arguably crossed the chasm. The space I work in, I can touch all the Fortune 5,000 companies. In fact, that's my go-to-market strategy. Mm-hmm. So in that situation, with the product team is getting lots of, I think, feature requests. We need another item in this drop-down menu. This needs to work faster when there are 10,000 items in the cart. Things like that, I don't pay any attention to. They go directly from the support team to the product team, and they can't drive demand, so I don't care about those. What I care about are the product capabilities that are going to drive buying activity, looking at what the product will do in 5 years. So a CIO is asking, if they buy a subscription from me for 5 years, in year 5, is this still going to be an industry-leading product? So we want to look at what CIOs are talking about, what the trends are that they're interested in, what Gartner and other analysts are saying are the driving trends. This year, AI is a leading trend. In some industries, it's been integrated for years. I'm selling to chief procurement and chief legal officers. They are just beginning to think about how they can apply AI. So I want to make sure I have a strong AI position for my product that we can demo and develop. And demoing it is more important than actually having it in the product. Because if you sell the demo, then you can build it into the product so they can use it once it's implemented. Enterprise software is different.
It's a great example, Steve. One of the things that, I'll give you 2 quick case studies. It'll be like a minute each. From a demo point of view, I joined my last startup called Mobile Iron, and they were mobile and security space, right? They're still out there. They're a public company now. There were like 10 people there when I joined. And from a product marketing standpoint, I partnered up with the product management people to give a great demo. Because what we had when we originally started was slideware. We had basically, you had pictures, and it's like, okay, here's how it should work. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Well, yeah, I mean, it was a real product, and it really did work, but the demo we gave people, sorry to be blunt, sucked. It didn't work, right? And so we came up with this demo sequence for the new sales hires, and my role in product marketing was to train all the new sales hires to make sure we gave the best demo. And from a product marketing point of view, it's like, okay, hit on the key product points, hit on the key markets that we're going after, and make sure people understand why you'd want to use this product and how it works, so that when they came back for a trial, whatever, they knew what to look for, right? And it fit, to your point, it wasn't vaporware, it fit with what the product had. So that's one case study. The second one is my first startup after Cisco. We were selling a Metro Ethernet switch. It was a company called Epigram. And we basically said, well, Metro Ethernet back in the day was a big deal, and we had customers lined up. And another company, I don't remember which one, came in and said, yeah, that's nice. They came out with a much better product. And so here I am, 6 months into the job. I had a great product lead, and I did marketing, but we had shit for products, right? Nobody wanted to buy our Metro Ethernet switch because there were much better products out there in the market. So as a product marketing person, one of the key things you learn about is, hey, there's another path to success. Let's figure out the other path to success. And it turns out, in this case, it was silicon, semiconductors. So the semiconductor part of our Metro Ethernet switch became the product for the company. And so it was a pivot from a system play on the switch side to a silicon solution. And we ran with that, came out with a great product, became a basis for a standards group, which we helped form, and that company was sold to Broadcom. So that was Broadcom. Second acquisition became the basis of the wireless group at Broadcom. But at the time, we didn't know it. I mean, they changed the PHY, right? It was the PHY originally was phone line, and the PHY at Broadcom became wireless. But the point is, by partnering with a good product organization and figuring out what's needed to sell the product, I think you can get success. And I think that's really important to our original thesis.
So you've sort of defined the product. You have, some idea of how to take it to market. You've identified customers. You know they're going to pay for it. What considerations do you take into, in your hypothesis on what the pricing should be? What should you be pricing it at? Like margins, how you go to market, is it a direct sale? And how can product marketing, product management work together?
I think pricing, and again, being in different companies, Cisco, Juniper, Brocade, all kinds of company like Brocade, which went down, and then Target. So even IT, we kind of struggle with how do you price your products, which is a digital product. So it's like, the typical terms, value-based pricing, and then, margin-based pricing, volume-based pricing. So volume-based, I don't call pricing, that's a discount strategy or a packaging strategy. So it really, and there are times when you have a lot of things in your product already and you were not charging for it. Those are interesting scenarios too. Oh, like say if you were selling a switch and the silicon was the driver, then how do you pivot? You were not charging for it. There was a differentiator. So at least recently, I've been working more on, I would say, value-based pricing. But then value-based pricing coming up with that is not. You still, at the end of the day, you need to, for a company to succeed, and I'm talking about big as well as small company, you need to have some margin kind of determined for your company, different tiers. You talk about tiers that, this is my top 10% of customers that I will address, and if they do this much of usage, then then you should always be thinking about the package of the pricing, that this is per unit pricing, this is when I apply this much of volume, this is what I will price, which is based on the discounts. And then if they continue to use it, software, if you're talking about licensing based or usage based products, then you're also looking at whether it is a capex you're thinking about, whether it is the opex problem you're trying to solve. So do look at all those aspects. Like if you're a software company, you're disrupting or you're displacing a hardware, say, I'll talk about technology, security products like mail security or DDoS attacks, those kinds of things. They were like physical products out there in the market, and people are used to kind of thinking of pricing in those terms. So then how you look at your pricing of the product, which is a new product, let's say I'm cloud at this point, so cloud-based product. So you will be displacing an existing model of the pricing and the usage and the discount model, and also the sales model of those boxes, and then how do you introduce your pricing model into that scenario? Recently, at least in my work where I've seen, being the head of the IT and now being the head of the product here, just other side, it do look at 5-year window, because most of the previous kind of, especially in the SaaS space, and I would have Steve kind of add to that, it does matter, because when you go to CIOs or CEOs of a company who has already purchased a lot of licenses for servers and operating systems, and they would ask you to do that kind of modeling. So when you're building your product, do look into the whole packaging of how you go from current capex to opex saving to the discounting and the sales model, and then if you're using partners and channels in between, to take into account all of that when you're thinking about pricing and margins.
So maybe we switch to Steve, and do you want to add from a SaaS model what the impact has been? Is it individual users?
Yeah.
How do you go about it?
Well, we price everything on a per user per month basis, or per user per year, like most SaaS companies do. Ultimately, product is not going to get involved. Our product team is good about not trying to insert itself there, and ultimately, I actually don't own the pricing for my product anyway. We're just set up that way. What I've seen is everything is value-based pricing in enterprise SaaS. You can sell the same thing for $1,000 or $1 million, depending on whether you've proven the value and proven it to the right person, which is why I say things like chief information officer is who you're selling to. You want to sell at the highest level possible. They have the most budget authority and can understand value at a higher level. Beyond that, the price presentment is the most important aspect of it. Who you're presenting it to, how you're presenting it. You can present, again, the same thing with a straight face, $1 million that would have been $1,000, if you can show that it's worth it at that price. And that is a strategic imperative that I think the best salespeople understand very intuitively. And that's ultimately where I advise them.
So maybe one aspect we can think about in pricing, and I don't know, how much different companies have product marketing, product management working together, or vice versa, on the competition. Let's say if it's an existing market segment and you're kind of disrupting as a new player, how do you include for the competitive play? I think Lakshmi touched upon it a little bit, because you are kind of creating a new model.
Sure.
But maybe
Yeah.
Adam or Parag, you want to touch upon it?
Up to you.
I would say that it's easy to say that you should do value-based pricing, but to come up with the pricing is a art and a data science project as well. all right? So one of the CEOs I worked with had given me a great advice, pricing is what sticks, okay? And a lot of times we think that once we price certain thing, that's how it's gonna be forever, and that's not the case, because you do want to do lots of experiments, and you did some $1 million deal, but if you cannot find another customer who is going to pay $1 million for your product, what are you going to do? You're going to drop the price. That's what makes sense. Yeah. And you're going to repackage the product and resell. And in some cases, as Apple did a long time ago when they priced iPhone, you're going to say, sorry, I thought the price was higher. I'm going to write your check back, which typically we never do in startup world, but you got to change and see how the dynamics of the marketing, how the dynamics of the pricing is working out, talking to the customer. So don't assume pricing is this one-time number that you come up with and then that's it. You're stuck with it forever. So let me pause here.
I agree.
See, Adam's got a marker. It's about to get interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so my example, another case study. So I was the VP of marketing at a company called Fortinet when it was about 100 people, okay? So Fortinet had basically a gateway antivirus product, right, for security. They looked at it and said, well, we're doing IPS, we're doing, all these different feature functions. There's competitors, 1 through infinity, on all these different products, right? So you have 5 or 6 different product categories that a company is going into in security. Well, the point there is, yeah, you can offer pricing for each of these vis-a-vis the competitors, and there are competitors for email and DDoS. There were all kinds of different modules they were trying to offer. But instead of doing that, we came up with a product marketing strategy to come up with a brand of grouping that we called Unified Threat Management. So that Unified Threat Management category, and we came together with that with the analysts as well, was basically saying you can't just have one of these things, but from a pricing standpoint and a product standpoint, you should have multiple of these things. And it became a differentiator for this company that helped the company grow quite large, and they're still around as a public company, but despite the product marketing that they got back in the day. But the point is, they looked at it and said, there's like probably 10 different features and functions that they offer, and there's probably more today. But the point back then was, let's not try to offer so many products by themselves. Let's try to come up with a group for value pricing that is a differentiator, and that stuck.
Thank you.
From a product standpoint.
I could quickly add to that.
Yeah.
If I may.
Yeah, sure.
This is similar to selling point solutions as opposed to a end-to-end platform offer. Because on the one hand, if you look at account-based marketing, right, it allows the flexibility for you to go and price depending on customers' needs.
Yes.
And at the same time, if it's like a small company, you still can go sell them bits and pieces with the hope that, hey, this will open a door to something big down the line.
Based upon what they specifically want and need. Yes, totally agree. Good observation.
Actually, I want to introduce a little controversy based on last experience. And so I am extremely frustrated at enterprise pricing models that we currently have. So to give you an example, we do sometimes pricing at per CPU pricing.
Yeah, I've heard that.
What does that mean in today's multi-core, multi-threaded environments? Why are we doing per CPU pricing? And I had this, it drove me crazy. So I talked to my sales team. I said, we shouldn't be talk to my management team. The customer, as we build more functionality, and we are charging per CPU, but the CPUs are getting powerful. We are just giving away functionality. We are not extracting more value that we bring in. And I tried and then failed. So we came up with per core pricing for our product. However, the sales folks could not sell it to the end customers. That, oh, this is too much. To calculate budgets for our solution changes a lot. I don't want to deal with this. customers
So you're
that,
bringing in a different perspective that pricing also requires getting sales buy-in and how do you
Sales
position-
training.
Sales training as well.
Sales
actually
people,
customer
sales-
training as well, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to see how you guys have dealt with those scenarios where you're trying to make the most efficient pricing as possible to bring the value out of your product, and then you're running into market forces saying this is too complicated.
So which is a good segue into messaging and positioning.
Yeah.
So maybe Adam, you want to start off?
Yeah,
I
sure.
think you were kind of going
Yeah.
in that direction.
Yeah, so I mean, to Parag's point, there was the direct sales team here, and training the direct sales team, that was pretty easy. But guess what? This was like 10% of the sales. 90% of the sales were indirect and channel.
Yeah.
And so from a positioning standpoint and training standpoint, the product marketing team was responsible for making sure that channel team had the information to sell the product. And I'm not ashamed to say it, we failed miserably several times in introducing this to the channel. They didn't get it, they wouldn't sell it, they'd sell one feature functionality, and the enterprise customers would look up and go, I don't want all that, I just want this. And it's like, well, wait a minute, that's not what we're supposed to be selling. We're supposed to be selling that. And so probably the third time. Like,
What would have you, knowing that now, what would have fixed that for you? For the indirect channels to properly sell it?
it's a really good question. I'm not sure I have a specific answer other than.
Was it just poor training, or is it just they didn't, yeah, it sounds like it might be poor training, right? They didn't understand the product, or no?
It's a combination of they didn't understand the product because it was a net new thing to the market, and the training really didn't get the point across. I think we were very constrained, no offense, by the CEO in hiring additional resources for marketing and product marketing, which to everybody in the room, no surprise, right? I mean, no big surprise. I mean, it's a small company, 100 people. You're not going to hire a lot of marketing or product marketing people. You're going to focus on the product management people and the engineering team to build the best product. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But to your question, I think making sure that we got out there maybe one additional marketing person, but also training the salespeople, even though they were direct, because they worked with the indirect channel, training them better probably would have short-circuited by one cycle. In other words, there wouldn't have been three cycles before it.
I think there's a product ecosystem effect as well. So we were selling products with VMware, and how VMware priced their things affected how we priced our things. So if they were buying in a certain way, their licenses from VMware in a certain way, they expected to buy in the same exact way, which is where all the trouble kind of starts. If you start pricing differently, then the customer raises up their hand saying, I don't understand. I want the same thing as what I'm getting from VMware. So it's
So as an upstart, let me just kind of bring the thing about positioning, right? So pricing is complicated, but it's also very directly linked to how you position the product and what's the message. I mean, you can kind of talk about value-based pricing, but it kind of falls back onto the messaging and positioning and how you define value. So, you know, I kind of see a lot of tech founders these days talking about, oh, I need somebody to help with messaging and positioning. My product management team is not able to do that. So is this kind of skill set dwindling in the valley? Like what happened? Like, I'm just curious if you have any perspective on that.
It's not just value, and I would just add few points to the previous conversation. Being in two companies, like say C company, B company, called Cisco and Brocade. Brocade was completely a hardware company, storage company, completely 99% based on partners, channels and all. They didn't have any direct sales. And then they went ahead and did 5 software acquisitions, like 5 company acquisition, and I was head of product management for that group in a company, and then they just fired off sales. All the sales, direct sales for these software-based companies. So the top level messaging is that go through channels, go through partners, and now you have these software-based products, a lot of open source-based products, and then you just fire off sales. Direct sales, there is no knowledge. So the messaging at the company level, still go work with partners, go work with channels, but your channels are those traditional, like, you know, I get 5%, you get 2%, and that's how you're selling. They're not even aware of the software-based pricing. So our strategy of how do you communicate, so I call it language. Now being on the IT side, and I absolutely agree with you. So if customers are, they are used to hearing certain word, I will pick some word called API economy, because I've dealt with a lot. You just need to understand the customer's language. So include them in your pricing survey model. You go to your 150 customers, or like let's say if it is a startup, go to your 2-3 customers, get their feedback into your pricing. Understand their language. If they say API, is that API language same as yours? If they say DR, I want disaster recovery software, do you understand what that means to them? Is it they're doing it because there's a compliance reason? Are they doing it because they're, they just want to save money or something? Please understand the customer language. I realize that because I did not. I used to think all these CIOs, CTOs who I talk to, they're all dumb. Seriously, only service providers are the smart people. But after being on the other side, then I realized that when you're solving problems for billions of consumers who are coming to your site every day, your language is very different. Your drivers are very different. So I think one of the good things is, and now I'm a product management head working for all those retail and financials and all of that. So what I do now, tell my salespeople to understand, do the surveys, understand their lingos, language. They use very different words. So that was kind of, because I myself got a very cultural shock when I went on the other side. I'm like, oh my God, I understand. And then I was able to help solve problems. So that, to me, that is kind of messaging and positioning, like it all combines. So whether you're on the other side, on the customer side buying it, or you just first understand your customers. Your positioning should be really after understanding, because so that they understand your language. And marketing has a huge role to play here, because if they do not understand the words, then all your product and positioning. So marketing, positioning, to me, that messaging statement, no matter where you're standing, airport or wherever, if you're a big company, you can afford good budgets, you can still fail because you're not writing those keywords which will, if I'm coming out of the airport, I see big thing, Dreamforce, I immediately know that it is Salesforce, it's helping build the dreams and realize the dreams of zillions of companies who are running there, right? So pick the word, understand your segment, and then marketing, positioning, absolutely 100% very important.
So maybe we have a word from Steve on messaging and positioning, and then we open up for a quick round of Q&A.
Yeah, I think that messaging, communication, content, communication seems to be a much harder skill set to do well than good product management, just in general. And I've seen a lot of product managers not good at it. Candidly, sometimes due to language skills. But I would be a terrible product manager in Europe, product marketer in Europe, so I don't understand the language or the culture.
That's an interesting perspective. It's true, actually.
And I've talked to people coming out of business schools, and they say, should I do product management or product marketing? I say, could you write me a 500-word essay right now and have it be good? If the answer is no, it's okay. Most people can't do that. It's really hard. It sounds like it should be easy, but it's hard. And if you can't, that's okay. Be a great product manager, but I'm not going to hire you as a product marketer because I need to know that you can write really well. And that comes to messaging and positioning too. I think there's two things you want good messaging to do in general, whether it's a single word like Dreamforce or whether it is a broader set of things. You want the other person to, if they hear your word, immediately understand what it means, even if they've never heard the word before. You hear Dreamforce, and you're familiar with what Salesforce is, you immediately think of something that's exactly what Salesforce would want you to think. There's three great marketers in the world, I think. One of them is Mark Benioff, brilliant business marketer. Richard Branson, going to be at my conference in May. Brilliant marketer, very excited to meet him. And the third, unfortunately, is Donald J. Trump. He's brilliant because he also does, you immediately know what he's saying, and you will repeat the words. The other thing I want you to do is when I say something to you, whether you agree with me or not, I want you to repeat it. That's my goal as a marketer, as a demand generator.
So I want to add a perspective. You said product management, product marketing, right? one of the comments that you will see, especially in big companies, it comes around is, hey, don't believe all this marketing fluff, you know. This,
Oh, yeah,
whatever
yeah.
they've written on this solution data sheet doesn't matter. And if you don't have the product management and the engineering bought into the messaging that is out there
Yes.
by marketing, no matter how good you write, when it comes down to execution and customer impression, sales guys are gonna come back to us, and if we are not in the same page, it doesn't matter. You're gonna shoot your credibility big time. So I think that relationship of credibility, you know, product management has to show credibility to engineering, and product marketing has to show credibility to product management. There's a tight ecosystem. If one of us fails, right, if we promise something in the marketplace and the engineering is not delivered or doesn't deliver on time, everybody gets affected. So it's a very tight ecosystem where if all three are executing, then you will have success in getting somewhere. But if one part is broken, you're gonna struggle.
Yeah, critical
Thank you.
dependencies. Good point.
Thank you. Maybe we'll take one or two questions.
That actually leads into my question for why I came to the session, which is, I'm pretty sure I understand what motivates a salesperson. I'm pretty sure I understand what motivates an engineer. I have no idea what motivates a marketer. Right? And I'm, in a world where we don't have as many marketing people as we'd like, I want them to be focused on my product, but I don't know how to get their attention so they have their success that they're looking for.
Marketers.
So I think I'll take the first part.
All right.
I think what motivates a marketer, especially a product marketer, is product success. The product is successful, it's sold in the market, it is different than the competitors and then it's out there. It shows that the customers are actually using the product. So customers can actually stand up and say, yes, I'm using this product and it works, it does what it says it was going to do, and it solves a problem. From a marketing point of view, that's my definition of
That's a
success.
politically correct answer.
No.
Right, but what I want to know is how does a marketer show their contribution to that success?
Oh, that they basically got the message out there, that they helped influence the sale, they were part of the sale of that product. They wrote the content that helped sell the product. Not politically correct, but accurate.
Related to that real quick, if you don't mind, add on to that, are you guys measuring, how are you measuring that
Right.
for your CMO, for whoever you're reporting to, whether it be also the sales team as well, because to show proof that what you're putting out there, your messaging, your pricing is one that's working, right? So how are you guys measuring that, and what are you using to do that?
When I had started at my job, current job, we had a very amorphous measure. So if I could show, look, I did this cool stuff, look, I'm effective because other people started to do what I say. It's like I said before, if you repeat what I say, I must be successful. But that's not really good, that's not really effective, and I may not be any good, I may just be a jerk. I've seen that. Now, I carry the number, the same as our chief revenue officer.
Yeah.
So for my line of business, I'm going to be compensated based on how much we sell and how much pipeline I generate. And I have much less influence over that than individual salespeople, than individual marketers, but demand marketers, I should say. But I got to drive them to do better things if they're not getting there.
So you co-own that number?
Oh yes,
Okay.
yeah, I'm bonused on that number.
I think the next session is at 11:45. So, is any of you a presenter for the next session? Oh, he's presenting. So yes, he needs to kind of get ready.
Yeah, I need to set up.
Pardon?
I need to set up, yeah.
You want to go get started? So while he gets started, if there's one or two more questions, we can take those. And we'll be available outside also if you want to take our cards or follow up with questions as well. Any last questions?
Again, it's a good line of thought that I just wanted to add, and maybe add to your comments on it. Sales enablement, right? From a motivation perspective, for a product marketing person, let's say that you have one successful campaign through account-based marketing. One customer, you have won them big time. Now, how do you take that lessons learned, build a nice solid sales playbook, and then go to other teams who are like hungry for stuff, right? How can you go and then capture their mind share? And then, because let's say you have a killer product, but now how do you get all the sales teams to kind of sing from the same hymn sheet? That's a big challenge, and also, you know, quite satisfying, if you will, you know.
I think you show them results. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
when you look at, you know, the types of programs you can run in marketing, there's paid and quote unquote free / organic, right? And if you look at the number of results that you're getting from each, and you track it, and you're obsessed with metrics, I know I was at my last startup, you show those metrics to the account team, and the account team that's winning says, yeah, this definitely worked. We should do this. We should replicate this. It should be in the sales playbook. And the ones that are basically saying, no, we're going to do this, it's like, well, where are the metrics? The metrics aren't there. So I think that's a whole nother presentation for some other time about metrics-based marketing, but there is definitely a place in the world for metrics-based marketing, because with digital marketing these days, there's a lot of traceability and accountability, like, you know, Steve was talking about, that you can get out there. And I've seen it in action early on with marketing and sales automation doing that.
I would add, we could do like hours on enablement alone, but I believe in
think
storytelling.
we
We have to leave, okay.
And, but thank you again for stopping by and joining us.